up and try again.
Hi everyone, it's Mike here. Thanks for joining me for another art journal page start to finish video. So I'm working in my dictionary journal again, and I've opened the dictionary up to the word monkey, and I've stuck the pages together with some matte medium just to give it that added thickness so I can add paint with no issues without it wrinkling. And I'm going to give the double page spread a coating of gesso so that I can add some colour to the pages without worrying about it sinking straight in. And I have made sure that I don't paint over the word monkey because I want to leave that exposed so that you can read the word and the definition quite clearly once the page is finished. So when I'm happy that I've got enough of the gesso on the page and I'm happy with the coverage of the gesso, I'm going to just bring out my heat tool and give it a quick heat blast to make sure it's all nice and dry so that I can start adding my first layer of colour. So my first colours that I'm going to use on the page again are my Neocolor 2s, which are the water soluble crayons, and I'm just going to spread some some of the crayon across the page, and then I'm going to bring in a paintbrush and activate that crayon and then just blend that paint into the page. Having the gesso on the page means that the Neocolors will move around a little bit. They're not going to sink straight into the page, and you can work with them and blend them a little bit, but I'm not too bothered about having all the brush strokes showing or any of the texture of the Neocolors showing through underneath, because it just all adds to the overall effect. So all I'm doing here is just picking up some clean water to activate the Neocolor crayons, and I'm just washing that across the gesso. It doesn't matter too much if it goes over the edge of the gessoed area. As I said, it is an art journal, so it doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be exact, and you're not striving for a masterpiece, you're just striving for something that's going to make you happy. And once again, once I'm happy with the colour on the page, I'm going to give it a heat blast with my heat tool to make sure it's all nice and dry and set before I move on to my next layer of colour. So my next layer of colour, I'm going to break out my gelatos. Something that I don't use very often, but I should do because they're so creamy and beautiful, vibrant colours that, you know, I always overlook them. I don't know why, but I think it's because they're not visible in my craft room. I have to actually get them out of a drawer, so I forget they're there sometimes. But the colours of these are just absolutely beautiful, and I'm going to use quite a few different colours around the page, and I'm just going to blend them into the page with my finger, and I'm not even going to activate these with water. I'm just going to leave them as they are. And the gelatos are from Faber-Castell. Whenever I use the gelatos on a page, they always remind me of, I always think I'm using a chapstick on my page, because that's what they look like. They look like those things that you have to keep your lips from getting dry and cracked. It's the same sort of consistency, and it's almost the same kind of applicator. It's got a twist up bottom and the colour comes out from the top. It's very odd, but they're absolutely wonderful to use. You can use the gelatos in a couple of different ways. As I'm using them here, you can just apply them to the page and blend them in using your finger, or you can apply and blend them with a baby wipe, or even just with a wet paintbrush. You can actually activate the colour, and they do turn into a kind of paint, so you can move them about that way. So they have multiple uses and practical uses as well. But once dry, they are permanent. So I'm going to carry on adding a few more layers, a few more colours around the page, and then when I'm happy, I'm going to move on to my next stage. So I'm now happy with the colour distribution on the page, and the eagle-eyed of those amongst you will have noticed in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen I have some stencils at the ready, and that's what I'm going to start using now. I've got out my archival ink in potting soil, and I'm going to take a stencil and I'm going to start applying some of that ink from the ink pad with an ink blending tool through the stencil around the page. And the first stencil I'm using on the page is a Dilutions stencil. It's a 5x8 stencil, and I believe it's called Arrows. So away goes the potting soil and out comes the vermilion red. Such a beautiful colour, this. I'm just going to swap over the blending foams on my blending tool, so I'm just going to try and find a red one to add that to my blending tool before I start putting the ink across the page. And as I'm looking, I discover that my red one has gone walkabout. I can't find it anywhere, and I have no replacement foams, so I've had to use something else for this. I've actually cut a piece of the Ink Stencils cut and dry, and I'm going to use that instead. And the stencil I'm using for this is the TCW Crafters Workshop Microbial Stencil. So away goes the red and out comes the yellow, saffron to be precise. So I'm going to be using the archival ink in saffron, and it's at this stage I suddenly realised why I can't find anything, why I can't find my ink blending foams or my tools. It's because they're all packed away for a class I was going to do the next day. So I've had to rake out my old blending tool, the square one instead. So it works just as well, but the circle ones I do find work better, but you have to work with what you've got. And this time the stencil that I'm using is from a company called That Special Touch, and the pattern is half-tone dots. So just adding the last section of stenciling there, and then I'm going to get out the heat tool and give the pages a good heat blast to make sure that all the archival ink is nice and dry before I can start adding on my next layer. And I'm going to start adding on my collage elements now. So using some matte medium, I'm just going to apply that with a brush to the right hand page, ready to apply my main focal image. And in a second I'm going to move just off camera a little to add some of that matte medium to the back of my collage element, but I'm using obviously my wipe clean non-stick craft mat to do that, so it's just out of frame at the moment, but I will bring it in just a second. And there he is, Mr. Monkey. This is such a fantastic collage image to use, and it's one that I got from a freebie website, which I will list at the end of the video, so stick around right till the end. So I've smoothed out any bubbles or wrinkles from Mr. Monkey, and then I'm just going to seal him onto the page by giving him a coat of that gel medium over the top. It is matte gel medium, and I have actually printed him out using a laser printer to make sure that none of the colour from an inkjet would run either. I think this image is just brilliant. I think he's so cute, and I can think of quite a few different things that I could use him for. So now he's all nice and dry, I'm going to bring out my Faber-Castell big brush Pitt pen in the Caput Mortem, which is the brown, and I'm just going to add some shadows to the right hand side of the image and just blend those in with my finger. Because I've used the gel medium or the matte medium, then they will move a little bit, and you can blend them before they become permanent. They are India ink, so they do have that that blendability factor. Okay, I'm happy with the intensity of those shadows behind him now, so out comes out my new toy. This is the Dymo letter tag machine, labelling machine, and I've already used this on a couple of art journal pages already, but I find it such a fantastic tool for getting precise quotes and sayings and all sorts of wording for your art journal pages without having to rake out your stamp sets every 5 minutes. So I'm going to type in the quote that I want for my page, and then I'm just going to quickly speed through, because there's 4 particular sections of the quote that I want to print out individually, so I will just quickly speed to the end of those so you're not having to sit and watch me type it all out. Okay, so we're all printed, and now all I have to do is to just peel the backs, because they are self-adhesive, off each of the 4 strips that I've printed out, and just apply those to the page where I want them. So now that my quote is added to the page, I'm going to just go around each of those strips with the food ball or food ball, depending on which way you want to pronounce it, and just to give those a bit of a border to make them just pop a little bit off the page. The good thing about using the Dymo letter tag machine or any labelling machine is that the strips, when they're printed out, are self-adhesive, and it is quite a strong adhesive, so you don't have to go back over those strips again with any gel medium or matte medium to make sure that they stay in place. But you can do if you want to. If you want to be super sure that they're not going to move, then I would do your outlining around the boxes and then I would leave them for a while just to dry, just to make sure that black ink from the pen isn't going to reactivate. And just see me now just going around the quote or the definition of the word monkey and just highlighting that with the pen too. And then that's just about it for this. All I have to do now, once I'm finished, I'm just adding some detailing around those boxes, and I will go back over the quote and add some detailing there too. And then all that's left for me to do at the end of that is to sign it and date it. So that's it for this page. I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and if you've enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up so YouTube will know that you want to see more from me. And if you haven't subscribed already to my YouTube channel, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. And I hope that you use the hashtag PAWGUSTART so that you can go and visit over 300 YouTube artists who are also participating in the Creative Arts Collaboration animal themed event. So that's all from me for now. Once again, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me again real soon.